I know some of my viewers may not like that I discuss politics or social issues in the films I review. It's not my intention to insult or provoke. I'm simply pointing out moments that lead to proving an argument about politics within a story that I believe is there. And trust me, those themes are in there on purpose to convey a message to you, whether you realize it or not, and whether you accept it or not. I wouldn't waste hours and days of my free time producing a film analysis video if I didn't think those themes were in there. The filmmakers involved are just as motivated by politics as you, me, or anyone else. I'm just here to go through each story with a fine-tooth comb and put those messages together like a jigsaw puzzle. Director Todd Phillips' first Joker film is a very well-crafted story that mocks far-left politics. But its sequel, Joker Folie à Deux, is a deliberate, pathetic response to the huge success of his predecessor, and more importantly, retracts the message of the first film. What's so interesting about these opposing messages isn't how cleverly they were done or weren't done, but the reason why they were done. I'll be getting into the sequel in another video. This video will focus on the first Joker story.
Here we go. He turns to me and he says, "Why so serious?"
Although this video is a critique of Phillips' Joker, it's necessary to bring up Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight first. Nolan's 2008 action juggernaut dominated the movie conversation landscape for years after its release and raised the bar very high for all future Batman films. This was, no doubt, in major part to Heath Ledger's iconic performance of the Joker.
You know, you remind me of my father. I hated my father.
Ledger's version of the Joker was diabolical and sadistic. Gone was the exaggerated looniness of Jack Nicholson's Joker from 1989, which was great for that story, but very comical, too cartoony, and non-threatening.
You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses on, would you? Huh?
Nicholson's performance was more akin to the Joker from the 1960s Batman TV series. Ledger's Joker was very mysterious. There's no backstory for Ledger's Joker. His attempts to answer the scars on his face go unresolved. He tells two different origin stories in the film, leading the viewers to not believe either of them.
He sticks the blade in my mouth. Let's put a smile on that face. I just want her to know that I don't care about the scars. So, I stick a razor in my mouth and do this.
If those two different pieces of information are even true a little bit, which I doubt, then the overall essence of his backstory is still vague. But for what reason? Well, Ledger's Joker is symbolic of the invisible and politically violent cells of the global war on terror during the 2000s. Nolan chose to keep his Joker impersonal and cryptic, and therefore plot-driven only. As interesting and colorful as he is to the story, Ledger's Joker is nothing more than pure symbolism. The audience is allowed a deep dive into the life of Phoenix's Joker because his story is very character-driven. Well, I'll return to The Dark Knight soon enough, but for now, we should discuss the very personal character study of Arthur Fleck and how director Todd Phillips uses the character of Arthur to critique modern-day society. The story begins with Arthur dancing on a sidewalk while dressed in a clown costume to gather attention for a going-out-of-business sale. Some kids steal his sign and beat him down in an alleyway. As Arthur is lying in pain, the title card appears. This is who the Joker is. We're watching a film about an unlucky, bullied man.
That's life.
That's life, apparently. We'll hear Frank Sinatra's classic song come up a few times in the film, and in the sequel too. The saying, "that's life," is just a way of telling someone to accept their fate. Hey, sometimes you're up, and sometimes you're down. I know all about it, and I'm sure everyone watching this does too. But you deal with it, and keep moving forward. You learn from those situations and make better choices in the future. But this is a story that constantly beats our protagonist down. He never gets a break. Rather than learning from his mistakes, Arthur decides to murder those around him.
So much. I just want to...
But I think Arthur's choice to engage in murder goes beyond simple revenge for unfair treatment and instead points to a well-hidden message about victim mentality and those who support and exploit it for political gains. Now, rather than going through the movie scene by scene, I'll only discuss how the story mocks the political left, because that's what the movie is really all about. To begin, we should briefly review some of Phillips' previous movies. His stories often display dark comedy and offensive moments. Beginning with 2000's Road Trip and 2003's Old School, you could see his sense of humor was very daring and uncensored. Although he might not have written or directed 2006's Borat, he's credited for its story. The Hangover trilogy was, like Borat, graphic and brash too. Phillips knows his viewers want a chance to enjoy that type of humor before they go back to their strict jobs and boring lives. Phillips basically made his entire career being offensive in his stories, which I respect. I enjoy clever comedy that isn't afraid to push boundaries. It's daring because it's not typical, regarding everyday human nature to offend. So much time and effort are put into conformity, expected empathy, and forced kindness these days that many times it derails us from our own goals. So when we see stories that are designed to offend, we take notice because it's unusual, provocative, and fun. While Phillips' catalog of films he directed and wrote have enjoyed great success, it's his 2019 Joker film that will be his magnum opus, like Pulp Fiction is to Quentin Tarantino or Jaws to Steven Spielberg. The first Joker film is iconic, but why? Because rather than having the Joker be a mastermind villain like Ledger's Joker, this one is a pathetic man, down on his luck. The Arthur Fleck character is designed to be a complete loser at every turn. He sleeps on the couch in a one-bedroom apartment with his mother. He has a demeaning job. His mother is mentally ill. Arthur discovers she adopted and abused him. Kids beat him up because they see him as weak. His coworker sets him up with a gun. He loses his job, and there isn't any funding for his medication. His stand-up comedy sucks too. Even Murray makes fun of him on TV.
Well, no one's laughing now.
You can say that again, pal.
Now sure, that's all true, but there's something underneath that, something vital to the theme and threatening the radical agenda of modern times too. It's a message created and developed to critique and offend the current overwhelming powers that be. Joker can be summed up by examining the story's exploitation of victimhood.
If it was me dying on the sidewalk, you'd walk right over me. I pass you every day and you don't notice me.
I mean, there's so much self-pity, Arthur. You sound like you're making excuses for killing those young men.
The whole story is just one big message of victimhood, meant to weaponize empathy in the viewer, which in turn, on purpose, mocks the cultural angle exploited by the political left to not take accountability for one's actions, and instead blame others and take the law into your own hands. Joker is meant to connect with the viewer by playing into your unfortunate situations in life and telling you that you're not responsible for your own actions. Others have more power over your life than you do, and there's nothing you could do about it. Thomas Wayne, no doubt, is meant to represent Donald Trump as a businessman and politician.
Well, of anti-rich sentiment in the city. It's almost as if our less fortunate residents are taking the side of the killer.
Yes, and it's a shame. It's one of the reasons why I'm considering a run for mayor.
Because Thomas Wayne is a good man.
But Wayne is portrayed as a heartless, mean man, and represents the true reason for Gotham's lack of empathy for its citizens in the story. It's actually Wayne's opinion that drives Arthur over the edge in the end. Because of Wayne's support for the three Wall Street guys who Arthur murders, it solidifies Arthur's belief of the lack of empathy in the world, and specifically, the lack of empathy from a wealthy businessman who has a broad reach to help millions of people with his investment company and political connections, but not help Arthur. Arthur expresses his disdain for Thomas Wayne during the climax of the film, of course. The viewer has had the whole movie to process the multitude of horrible things that have happened to Arthur at that point.
You think men like Thomas Wayne ever think what it's like to be someone like me? To be somebody but themselves? They don't.
He knows he deserves empathy from Murray and the viewers too, so he chooses to bring up Thomas Wayne to remind the audience of Wayne's part in Arthur's victimhood mentality. So what true relevance does Thomas Wayne have? Like I mentioned before, Wayne is suggestive of Donald Trump, but he's more than that. He's symbolic of American capitalism and the lack of empathy, hierarchical dominance, and unfair opportunities many believe that derive from capitalism. According to more and more people these days, capitalism is a heartless way of life, focusing on profits made from goods and services instead of the compassion and empathy needed to help the masses. And Thomas Wayne is the symbolic reason for those beliefs. The Thomas Wayne character is where the subtext of Joker becomes truly materialized. Because Wayne is the only representation of the rich that we see in the story, it's not only a biased point made by the writers to emphasize that all rich people think like him, but it's to show why Gotham is in constant freefall. Society, by the end, quickly dissolves into citywide riots. I know Joker was released in late 2019, and America hadn't experienced the destructive countrywide 2020 riots from Black Lives Matter and Antifa yet, but it wasn't as if riots weren't already a very common thing here in the United States. All of the riots, literally every single one of them, are produced by far-left communist groups, raging against conservative values, basic law and order, and mostly American capitalist ideologies, the very bane of the left's existence. That's why stores like mom-and-pop shops and bodegas and large retail chains like Target are always looted and set on fire during riots. They view capitalism as the enemy and personal responsibility as irrelevant. Responsibility should be, instead, viewed as a shared obligation. Arthur uses Thomas Wayne, as a specific reason for the allowance of cruelty in America, Gotham City. All Wayne is doing was sticking up for a few Wall Street guys who worked for him. Wayne doesn't know the whole story about what went down on the train, and even if he did, he would probably still say that those guys didn't deserve to die. Sure, they were violent towards Arthur, but did they deserve to die? According to radical philosophies, like the one Arthur, the writers, and many of the viewers who empathize with Arthur subscribe to, then yes, Wayne's support for the Wall Street guys represents his support for the effects of capitalism, of which we see only symbolizes negative things in the story. Arthur's medication has been cut, crime is everywhere, and society doesn't care about the next person, and the person to blame for it all is Thomas Wayne, which represents who again? This is where we circle back around to The Dark Knight. Although yes, Ledger's Joker was evil in an impersonal way, he symbolized the terrorism of the times. But even more than that was his disdain for money. He didn't appreciate that money was the driving factor of his criminal counterparts.
All you care about is money. This town deserves a better class of criminal. And I'm gonna give it to him.
The opening scene is of the Joker and his henchmen stealing from a mob bank, only to have the Joker kill his crew and take the money for himself.
That's a lot of money. What happened to the rest of the guys?
Rather than keep it, the Joker sets it all on fire.
It's not about money. It's about sending a message.
He wanted to watch the world burn, like Alfred said. The world, in that context, wasn't just hurting innocent people for the hell of it, but destroying the very motivation that keeps the world turning. Money.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Everything burns.
Even the poster for The Dark Knight looks just like the Twin Towers, which was the central hub for American capitalism, and is the primary reason why it was attacked by Al-Qaeda on 9/11, the left. And by saying the left, I'm including all foreign and domestic political and identity groups looking to harm American citizens, overthrow the government, and our Constitution. They must dismantle the capital system first. Everything finally culminates in more murderous chaos for Arthur during the Murray Franklin show. Arthur had just brutally killed his co-worker Randall and famously danced down those stairs in the Bronx. His mother is dead. It's even implied he killed or raped his neighbor Sophie, although we learn she went unharmed from her presence in the sequel. Arthur is off his meds and he plans to kill himself on the show. He's a free man now. Well, almost free. Arthur only has one more target to confront: Murray, the symbolic father figure.
You see all this, the lights, the show, the audience, all that stuff, I'd give it all up in a heartbeat to have a kid like you.
And as much of a character-driven story this is, we still don't know anything about Arthur's true background. We don't know who his real mother or father is. His adoption wipes clean his backstory, and Arthur kills his two parental figures, Murray and Penny. Even Thomas Wayne, once believed to be Arthur's true father, dies.
You get what you fucking deserve.
No, pal!
So all parental figures associated with Arthur are killed. Just like Heath Ledger's Joker and his mysterious background, Arthur Fleck here is just as mysterious too. What does the lack of origin mean for the Joker character? It means that the Joker represents everyone. You see, if Arthur or Ledger's Joker had solid, official backstories, then it would lock them down into a certain type of identity. It would, more or less, allow their characters, and by extension anyone in real life who even slightly resembles them in personality or lifestyle, to be prejudged. But the avoidance of backstory removes those identity limitations and instead allows that judgment to be placed upon anyone. Twice in the story, the audience is led to think that Arthur will shoot himself on the Murray show. Now, that would align with the Joker character, yes, but not with the radical left-wing message used throughout the story. He could have already committed suicide countless times, but never did. That's because he never truly planned on it. It's revenge that Arthur wants. Arthur does his awkward entrance and tells an unfunny joke.
It's the police, ma'am. Your son's been hit by a drunk driver. He's dead.
This is when another theme of the story comes to life. The director's desire to confront the world for their resistance to and their critique of comedy, especially his offensive humor he uses in his films. It's displayed now.
No, you cannot joke about that.
Yeah, that's not funny, Arthur.
In a 2019 interview for Vanity Fair, Phillips discusses his reasons to abandon making comedies. Because of the backlash of woke culture, Phillips said, "Go try to be funny nowadays. There were articles written about why comedies don't work anymore. I'll tell you why. Because all the fucking funny guys are like, fuck this shit, because I don't want to offend you." It's hard to argue with 30 million people on Twitter.
Comedy is subjective, Murray. Isn't that what they say?
Arthur's joke and his comments about what society chooses to find funny are directly related to this sentiment. Phillips, during this scene, is the Joker himself, arguing for his right to make jokes about things that society may deem offensive and off-color.
You decide what's right or wrong the same way that you decide what's funny or not.
And Phillips's escape from making comedies falls in line with his downfall of the Arthur Fleck character and the cancel culture goals of left-wing politics. Joker is a movie that is mocking the left, big time. The story displays the left as pathetic, as victims, and therefore blame everyone and everything else. The victim mentality is to get attention, sympathy, and most of all, validation for whatever actions they choose on people who question them. Joker mocks self-pity. Murray even says it to Arthur. The simple fact that Joker is a story where nothing good happens to Arthur should be your first clue to its self-pity message. The only answer the story provides, according to the helpless Arthur, is murder. Not compromise, not legal battles, or even calm debate. Nope, just homicide at every turn. Joker lampoons the left in their inability to handle responsibility. Actually, Arthur wants others to be responsible for his actions. He weaponizes empathy. Feel bad for Arthur, or he'll hurt people. Although he goes to jail, he gets what he wants in the end. No accountability for his actions, because he got revenge on the people who took advantage of him. Going to Arkham isn't a punishment because, in his eyes, it's worth it. The message to the viewer, on the surface anyway, is to treat other people nicely, or else they'll be justified in hurting you. Putting them in prison for their violent crimes doesn't help, because, like Arthur says to Murray, nothing can hurt them anymore once they believe their actions are justified. But on a deeper level, Joker is a story that weaponizes the viewer's empathy to help rationalize Arthur's actions. And it's within that manipulation that the true message of Joker lies. Pure mockery of those who refuse to take accountability for their actions. So what do you think about that, folks? Stay tuned and look out for part 2 of this video, where I'll discuss the sequel, Joker, Folie à Deux, and Phillips's conscious decision to create a subpar sequel. You've been watching Subtextual Archives.